I've been teaching courses in economics for almost 30 years. For the last 22 years, I've been teaching microeconomics at the Booth School of Business at the University of Chicago. I have three general objectives when I teach economics. The first is to convey the power of the ideas of economics. The second is to help students achieve proficiency in the methods of economics. And the third is to help students attain an understanding of the language of economics. In this video, I will discuss the 8 central ideas or lessons that I emphasize in my microeconomics course. Lesson 1, see the big picture. Starting with markets, this is where economic value must be created and captured. Your task is to recognize how your company interacts with other players in your market. Here is a figure from a book by Adam Brandenberger and Barry Nailbuff that illustrates what I mean. Your company is at the center of this figure. Above you are your customers, the people who buy from you. Below you are your suppliers, those who sell to you. To your left are your substitutors, those who sell products that consumers perceive as substitutes for yours. And to your right are your complementors, those who sell products that enhance the value of your product. Know this, players in your market cooperate to grow the pie, but compete with each other to capture a bigger share of the pie. Lesson 2, understand the economics of value creation and value destruction. To understand what I mean by economic value, consider this figure. At the top is the customer's maximum willingness to pay, denoted by P. If the price P is above B, the customer does not buy. At the bottom is the company's unit or average cost, denoted by C. I will have more to say about cost in a few minutes. And then there is the price P that the company sets. In this figure, P lies in between B and C. Though that does not have to be so, I will speak more about P in a few minutes. The gap between B and P is what economists call consumer surplus. This is a measure of the customer's savings when making a purchase. The gap between P and C is the company's profit margin, a measure of what the company retains after paying for all its costs. This figure makes two things clear. First, if B is not greater than C, the company does not create economic value and must reassess why it exists. Second, if P is less than C, the company makes no profit and must reassess its cost, its price, and whether it is serving the right customers. Lesson 3, your company must create a market for your products and manage the demand and supply for the products. People must be persuaded to buy the products. For that to happen, you must understand who your customer is, what product attributes they care about, what other options they have, and what they're willing to pay for your products. Equally importantly, you must have a plan for how you're going to produce or procure your products. The demand and supply of every product is constantly changing because everything around us is constantly changing. This includes changes in consumer tastes and incomes, the prices of substitutes and complements, workers' knowledge and skills, the capabilities of machines, and more. Economics aims to alert us to how the forces around us are likely to affect the markets in which we operate so that we make smart decisions. Lesson 4, understand your costs, your cost structure, and how it matters. Economics thinks of all costs as opportunity costs. That is, what must be given up when you make a choice. Framed this way, the costs a firm incurs to produce product X includes explicit costs such as the cost of raw materials and wages, as well as implicit costs such as the benefits you give up when producing X. For example, the fact that you own a building does not mean that your cost of using that building to produce X is zero. You're giving up the opportunity to earn rent on that building. And economics teaches us that this lost benefit is a legitimate cost. The most significant implicit cost for companies does not show up on their income statements. I'm speaking of the cost associated with the equity invested in the company, a cost that is ignored on conventional income statements. By acknowledging that equity is not free and that it carries an implicit cost, companies are forced to raise the hurdle rate on the investments they make. Lesson 5. Your price P must take into account competition, differentiation, and bargaining power. The price P is the variable that gets the most attention in microeconomics. It is no wonder then that microeconomics is also called price theory. Economics spends considerable time and attention examining how prices are determined and how and why prices change. The model of perfect competition, in which companies sell undifferentiated products and face numerous competitors, emphasizes an important truth. The greater the intensity of competition, the lower the price and the smaller each company's profit. The monopoly model, in which the monopolist is the only game in town, emphasizes a second truth. Companies can earn a tidy profit if they are lucky or astute enough to sell products that have no substitutes. However, maintaining a monopoly position is hard because others are constantly trying to create substitute products. Models of price discrimination emphasize a third truth. Companies make greater profits when they charge different customers different prices than when they do not. Lesson 6. Deploy the right combinations of people and machines. Economics views capital, that is machines, and labor, that is people, as essential inputs in the production process. The questions that every company has to answer are these: what types of labor do we need? How many people should we hire? How much should we pay them? What must we do to make them as productive as possible? Economics tells us that the company must aim for two distinct types of efficiency. The first is technical efficiency. That is, to ensure that the gap between what the company can feasibly produce and what it actually produces is as small as possible. Achieving technical efficiency requires companies to coordinate tasks, monitor workflows, and incentivize workers to give their best effort. The second is allocative efficiency. That is, to ensure that the company is operating the right businesses and that it is deploying the right types and combinations of labor and capital. Lesson 7. Discover the right scale. By scale, I mean size. Producing one car is hard. Producing 3 million cars is harder. Producing 3 million cars requires a different process than the process used to produce one car. It is in the discovery of a repeatable process that is both effective and efficient that the genius of scaling is revealed. It took many years for Henry Ford to discover and master the processes that enable the mass production of cars. The shape of the firm's average cost curve reveals the efficacy of scaling up. If your company can create the conditions so that average cost declines sharply as volumes expand, size is an advantage. If, on the other hand, average cost falls very little or not at all as volumes expand, size is not an advantage. Lesson 8. Choose which games to play and which games to pass on. To start, you must understand the game you are playing. This means you must understand what is at stake, who the other players in the game are, their priorities, constraints, and capabilities, the information you have and do not have, and the information other players have and do not have. You must ask yourself, is this a zero-sum game? Is this a game where multiple players can succeed simultaneously? Is this a game that you can change? And is the price for succeeding worth the risks that you must take? Let me close by reiterating the 8 central lessons of economics. Lesson 1, see the big picture. Lesson 2, understand the economics of value creation and destruction. Lesson 3, create and manage the demand and supply of your product. Lesson 4, understand your cost structure and how it matters. Lesson 5, your price must account for competition, differentiation, and bargaining power. Lesson 6, deploy the right combinations of people and machines. Lesson 7, discover the right scale. Lesson 8, choose the games you play and the games you're going to pass on.